So the whole conversation comes to a conclusion that you have all the best algorithms possible in the world in your hands. They are going to give you n number of options, n number of solutions. It's you who has to choose the right one, right?
AI is a tool, it's not the solution, right? And I think when we leverage that tool to help us solve the problem that we're actually tackling, the solution is the end result of what you use. Think about every single employee having a direct report of 100 people without having any direct reports. You can tell it to do certain things for you while you are doing other things, and it brings those things to you without you having to think, without thinking what are the mundane things that you have to do to get it.
So the next time you think of dropping out of your college, just with the influence of fancy AI tools, just listen to this conversation before doing that, and think at least twice. Today we have with us the head of digital claim solutions and previous senior vice president of Crawford and Company, the world's largest independent provider of claims management solutions, whose expertise earned him the recognition of Rise's 35 under 35 award for top talent for making an impact in the company. And not just this, he is well known for the integration of AI in claims processing and improving organizational efficiencies. I welcome Mr. Awais Farooq to the AIBROS Show. How are you doing, Awais?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Welcome, Awais.
Likewise, likewise, likewise. So, um, let's start this discussion with a brief overview of your career in the insurance industry. What key roles have shaped your views on technology and innovation?
Yeah, no, thank you for the high level overview of my background. Just to chime in a little bit more, I've been in the industry for close to 2 decades, all in the
Mm-hmm,
claims handling side of things. So I've spent time at State Farm, Chubb, Berkshire
mm-hmm,
Hathaway, and as well as tech
mm-hmm,
companies, and then prior to my role here at Crawford and Company.
mm-hmm,
With all of that, had really awesome experiences at carriers, being able to lead large claims organizations, as well as starting
mm-hmm,
a claims organization for one of the companies that I mentioned, into personal
mm-hmm,
lines for property and casualty. Really excited to be here because I think a lot of people don't know what insurance industry is all about or what all goes in, and how that's so related to the financial sector. And insurance industry
mm-hmm,
is part of the financial ecosystem. Everyone needs
mm-hmm,
it, everyone utilizes it. And with that being said, claims is a very crucial point within the
mm-hmm,
industry that is important for us to make sure how we engage with our clients, because you purchase a policy and you don't really have any any engagement or connectivity with the insurance company until you have a claim. So having been in this
right.
side of the business, I've led catastrophe operations. I've had the opportunity
Mm-hmm,
to be able to lead back office operations, frontline, as
mm-hmm,
well as from a implementation of technology solutions. So being that
mm-hmm,
middle core individual connecting IT operations, claims, underwriting, actuaries, all of that to bridge in the gap of the missing questions that everyone has, and to avoid pointing fingers. The key things about my
mm-hmm,
career have been really the amazing mentorship that I've had along the way. I didn't get to where I'm
mm-hmm.
at on my own, so it's about through guidance of a lot of different folks and continuing to educate myself around what's happening today and being ready for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. That actually sounds inspiring. Let's take this discussion forward with the points that you mentioned. I hope we'll surely be, on a greater scale when we come to know about your experiences, your innovations in the further podcast. So I want you to explain our audience what Crawford and Company does for the organizations as well as for the common people. What you guys are doing at Crawford and Company.
Yeah, Crawford and Company is very unique in the way we play into this ecosystem. Just to give you a high level
Mm-hmm.
overview, we
Mm-hmm.
are the claims department of the insurance industry worldwide. What I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is we work with a lot of the care insurance companies that you may be familiar with. Pretty much
Mm-hmm.
95% or more of the carriers, in some shape, way, or capacity, utilize us. And we have a
Mm-hmm.
large ecosystem of the claims department, from intake
Mm-hmm.
to handling of the claim to then curating and then fulfillment, as well as recovery on certain aspects. So it's an
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem of claims management for insurance companies beyond just the third party administrators that you may know, or offshore engagements. We are the true ambassadors of the brand of the company, that's trusting us with their claims. And we
Mm-hmm.
handle all types of claims, from auto, fender bender, to fence damage claims, to roofing claims, to even a satellite in the space damage with billions of dollars of losses. So when you have commercial claims where you have a bridge collapsing, or you have a large high rise having a massive fire, so we handle all different types of claims. We've engaged with NASA engineers, we've engaged with doctors, head of hospitals. So you can imagine pilots,
Mm-hmm.
all different types of claims, from inland marine to cargo ships and everything in between. So that's what makes us so unique. The other element that I
Mm-hmm.
was talking about, the ecosystem, we can do parts or all of the claim process. So if you're an insurance company and you're looking for just an intake of the claim, we could be that in source for you to be able to handle that. We could be the organization that guides your customers and claimants through the process of
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen, interpreting policy coverages, evaluating claim, preparing estimates, to then fulfilling that. So we have an
Mm-hmm.
organization called Contracted Connection, where we actually have a network of contractors that go out and repair the homes that have been damaged. So it's not just cutting a check from an insurance company and saying good luck. It's about making sure that the policyholder is made whole, and that they're back to the previous condition prior to their loss. In addition to that,
Mm-hmm.
have subrogation needs of going after another insurance company based off of liability, based off of who's responsible
Mm-hmm.
for that loss. We help accelerate that as well. On top of all of that, why I'm so excited about AI Pros is because I am passionate about artificial intelligence as it relates to the insurance industry, as it relates to claims. There are
Mm-hmm.
massive disruptions happening throughout different industries, and what
Mm-hmm.
you'll find out is that the insurance industry is slow to adopt, and it is
Mm-hmm.
slightly behind the A ball on when it comes to technology. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And I think part of the reason why they're behind is they want to make sure that they're doing the right things and not impacting
Mm-hmm.
policyholder experience or customer
Exactly.
experience by just implementing new and shiny objects. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
methodical risk evaluation. However, there's huge opportunity ahead of us to think about where and how this can implement and make an impact. And I think you asked a
Mm.
question about how does it impact the normal
Yeah.
policyholder and customer, right? I think we are the contact with the customer. We are the contact with the public in general about after they have a loss. We are that individual that they're
Mm-hmm.
speaking with. We're that individual that is holding hands and guiding the policyholders through understanding their coverage. So we play
Mm-hmm.
a part of making sure that we are an advocate of the policyholder against the policy. There's a huge misconception
Mm.
about the insurance industry that the insurance companies don't want to pay claims. The
Mm-hmm.
where we play a key role, where all the claims department, a good claims adjuster, is going to be an advocate of the policyholder that is able
Mm-hmm.
to review the policy and pretty much fight against the policy to say, have I evaluated every single coverage to get you the maximum benefit that you are
Mm-hmm.
entitled? And that's what we do.
Mm. Nice, nice. Sounds really good. But tell me, don't the insurance companies interfere in what you do, because you are directly in touch with their customers,
Mhm.
and like, isn't there any interference from the insurance company, or the insurance companies does want you guys to help their customers? Is what's the equation?
Yeah, so when I was talking about the misconception, it's exactly that. When you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about a customer, you're
Okay.
thinking that the insurance company doesn't want you to get paid. That's not true. It's a
Mm-hmm.
binding contract, right? Where you have signed and said, in exchange of X amount of money, I want you to be able
Mm-hmm.
to cover me for these things. And as long as those
Mm-hmm.
things are covered, you know, there's not an insurance company that I've worked with, that we work with, that's going to come in and say don't pay it because we need you to find a loophole to get away from it. And I think that's the challenge,
Mm-hmm.
is the insurance companies don't want their reputation to be impacted by not paying claims,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you have bad faith claims that happen, that occur just like in any business. But at the end of the day, think about it from a customer standpoint. You ask to
Mm-hmm.
purchase a bag of fruit or whatever it may be, you're expecting that product to be in the bag when you purchase it. Same concept
Mm-hmm.
applies to insurance companies. The benefit of that is you have a well-defined view of what is covered, what's not covered, what gives you back coverage. So the insurance policy, the way it works is it tells you everything is covered, but these few things are going. But
Mm-hmm.
if this happens, then this is covered, right? So you keep on going back
Mm-hmm.
and forth between what is covered, what's not covered, and making sure you get to the end solution. So we don't get an advocacy from insurance companies to saying go ahead and deny claims. However, they do want us to make sure we pay properly, right? Just because we're an advocate
Mm-hmm.
of the customer and the insurance company, we don't want to overpay. We don't want to underpay. It's got to be the right
Mm-hmm.
apples to apples of what the contract provides versus
Mm-hmm.
losses.
Mm-hmm. So the overview is that you help customers to figure out what to claim and what not to claim under what conditions. Is that the thing? From the
Correct. So
policies, from the insurances, yeah, from the insurances they opt for, you help claimers, the customers, to figure out what all conditions are covered under what all circumstances and what should you expect from the insurance company.
correct. No, 100%. So just from a technicality standpoint, we can dictate what they claim. So an insurance
Mm-hmm.
policyholder or customer can claim anything they want. Then they have to prove why they're asking for that, right? Versus
Correct, yeah.
where we come into play is what's being claimed. We evaluate that. We assess the
Mm-hmm.
damage. We will determine the cost of that impact or the damage that has occurred, and how we could get the
Mm-hmm.
person back to the pre-loss condition, how they were prior to that. Depending on how the policy is, look, there's a lot of different types of policies. So I'm not speaking on one generalization, because there are policies that will give you stated amounts. So if you have a loss, you'll just get paid, for example, $10,000. That's what the stated amount is. And
Mm-hmm.
parametric insurance, that's how it works. But then you have others that
Mm-hmm.
are like, that will tell you, we will pay you based off of what's damaged, and we will give you the actual cash value, which is you
Mm-hmm.
had something for 10 years and the life expectancy is 20 years. We'll give you 50% upfront, and then that's all we'll give you. There are other companies that will say we'll give you 50% upfront, and then we'll give you the remaining
Mm-hmm.
50% when you replace it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a battle of figuring out what did the person purchase and applying
Mm-hmm.
the contract to the claim that's filed.
Okay. Okay. So now we are very much clear of what you do and how you participate in the insurance and the customer relationship, right? So I feel we should also help our viewers understand what this InsureTech, the term InsureTech is. If you could help us out what the term InsureTech is, and specifically if you could break down the key components what are involved in InsureTech and how AI nowadays is being used in these areas.
Yeah, I think the term has very loose meaning in the industry at the moment. So initially,
Mm-hmm.
it started off with the focus that InsureTech is going to be an insurance company who is technology focused, or is positioning itself as a
Mm-hmm.
technology organization. So think of companies such as
Mm-hmm.
Lemonade. Think of
Mm-hmm.
companies that are evolving as an insurance company that offer products
Mm-hmm.
utilizing mostly technology. That term has
Mm-hmm.
evolved over the last decade or so into more companies that offer services and products to help
Mhm.
insurance companies and to help create this ecosystem of all the things an insurance company needs. So, an insurance company who's a traditional insurance company can purchase InsureTech products and services to
Mhm.
create a better, stronger, more modernized technology infrastructure and design without having to
Mhm.
go in and rebuild everything from scratch. Um, and with that, the development of AI has led into this. So a lot of companies that are looking at document ingestions, a lot of companies that are looking at document evaluation, coverage analysis, letter writing to conversational AI, all of those things kind of blend into that insurtech space. But it's
Mhm.
evolving. It's evolving quite drastically, and I think the term is used very loosely to any
Mhm.
company at the moment. The interpretation
Mhm.
there is no defined description of it. However, I think a lot of it really evolves around: are you providing a service or a product, or are you an organization that is technology focused to help
Mhm.
ease the problems of the end customer?
Mhm. All right, all right. So let's actually jump to the part where your expertise lands on. You have been very famous. Actually, you have worked on AI-driven claims processing and data-driven strategies for efficiency, right? I want to I want you to give us an overview of your work in this area, and uh, how do you help the strategies, how do you work with the help of AI?
Yeah. Look, I think when people are thinking about claim modernization, when they're thinking about industry modernization, it's very easy to jump to AI and say AI is going to solve our problem. And I echo this
Mm-hmm.
every conversation I have. AI is a tool; it's not the solution, right? And I think when we leverage that tool to help us
Mm-hmm.
solve the problem that we're actually tackling, that's when that's what the solution is. The solution is the end result of what you use, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think from my experience, I've worked on a lot of different technology, not just AI, because AI right now is, I think, all over the place and where we can go with the possibilities. And I think
Mm-hmm.
our brain cannot comprehend how fast the technology is evolving, to be honest with you, as an industry,
Exactly.
right? As an individual, I
Correct.
mean, even I just was looking at ChatGPT, and now they have the memory function in there. It can remember the things that you said. And that's how the
Mm-hmm.
AI technology is going to evolve, is where we will not have to think as much when we're doing the work. We will
Mm-hmm.
have things come up to us that we normally as human beings think about and saying, oh, I have to do that one thing, or I should look at this part
Mm-hmm.
of the coverage. And I think that's where it comes in.
Mm-hmm.
But my expertise and experience is always been in digital transformation around: how do you
Mm-hmm.
standardize the process, how do you optimize the process, and how do you automate the process through RPA technology, through other technology that is
Mm-hmm.
still very relevant today. Now, RPA is an robotic process automation. You all are tech folks, so you probably know, right?
Yeah.
But RPA is really around: how do you take a process and allow it to self-serve? I think AI
Mm-hmm.
embedded into the RPA is going to accelerate, because now you're thinking about the possibilities of what could be done through automatic processing, right? What can be done, what
Mm-hmm.
can be done at an elevated fashion, before we had to go in and do discoveries and figuring out, okay, how can we match this task with this task and then go here and do this? That process mapping, that process evaluation of what is meaningful and what is not meaningful is now going to
Mm-hmm.
be more evident than ever before. But I think a lot of people confuse data and knowledge with AI. A lot of the data that is collected, it's not all good data. And I think that's what you find in a lot of organizations as you jump in and you start to look at it and saying, yes, we collect a lot of information, but we don't use 95% of it. And of that information, only 5 to 10% is actionable information that we can gather and leverage to build something that's more tech driven, that's more futuristic focused. So I heavily believe that AI plays a huge role in how humans will work in the future, how organization will
Hmm.
view things. It's embedding the right solution to solving a problem, not looking at AI as a solution.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
So we discussed about this AI is the trend now, and a lot of industries are adopting it. So how are people open towards adopting the AI in the insurance domain? What are your experiences with that?
Yeah, a lot of excitement. But as I said, we are a very slow industry for the right reasons and wrong reasons. I think we want to move faster, but we want to be cautious in the
Hmm.
industry. And I think that's the notion that I'm getting. There's a lot of development being done. There's a lot of work being done in different spaces to accelerate the adoption, to accelerate the modernization. Um, you
Hmm.
know I use COVID as an example. We don't talk about COVID, but as an example, nobody ever wore masks before. When
Yeah,
it became
correct.
a necessity, everybody, even folks that were against masks, are starting to wear masks. And I
Correct.
think
Right.
as an insurance industry, we're heading to a phase where we're going to have a huge talent gap. And to fulfill that, not just in insurance but overall, because baby boomers are retiring, coming to a retirement stage. And I think I was looking at some metrics, and it was saying 4,000 people a day are retiring starting in 2025. That is massive amount of folks that are exiting. And looking at how the new generation is not necessarily going in with a traditional job model. They're looking at some
Hmm.
creative ways. The gig economy is becoming a huge disruptor within all industries and how people want to work. So I think the future of work is evolving, and
Hmm.
AI will play a key role. AI is playing a key role, but it's a slower adoption in the insurance industry compared to some of the other sectors. And the reason for that is, the sensitivity around the litigation aspects of it, the sensitivity around
Hmm.
personalization, and just we're going to talk a little bit about. I'm sure you'll have some comments around hallucination and things like that exist
Correct.
in that space.
Exactly.
But I think there are concerns from a governing standpoint to evaluating what's being done. Now at Crawford and Company, we're testing out in our labs a lot of creative solutions to problems that folks are trying to solve. Right, leveraging AI,
Hmm.
leveraging the technology to building these use cases and actually deploying them and saying, this is what's going to solve. Now, the most important thing is you have to have diversified data, and you have to
Hmm.
train your models around that data. And we have plenty of data from a lot of different organizations, a lot of different infrastructure. Now we can't utilize all of that, right? I think that's where there's a little bit of gap too. Is we work with a lot of different insurance companies, but we can't use all of that data to build it. However, we are partnering with certain organizations to kind of collaborate and figure out how can we leverage the information within their own organizations to help strengthen the the future handling of processing a claim.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, with that, I also see that you have tried to understand the interest with your LinkedIn post, where you asked about the 2025 goals, where you gave four options, and the three options were related to the insurance domain only, and the other one was to train your own AI and preserve your job or save your job. So that shows the interest where the people are interested in. So at Crawford, what are you planning to integrate the AI into this insurance and risk domain? What are the plans right now?
Yeah, we've just launched a product called CoverAI. Essentially, it allows insurance organizations to be able to have a conversation with their policies and
Mhm.
trying to have a deeper understanding of why certain things are covered, why they're not covered, and leveraging that and referencing the policy at certain stages. So that way it takes out that training element, it takes out that guessing of what's happened before and how do you leverage that to make a better decision. Because I'll give you an example. A lot of claim handlers may have made a right decision. You give them all a policy, the decisions can be slightly
Mhm.
different, right? And there is a lot of
Mhm.
gray area, and it helps evaluate from a consistency standpoint that the organization is interpreting the policy the way it should be interpreted, versus
Mhm.
creating a lot of this challenge of, one person is interpreting it one way, because that does pose a lot of exposure, right? If you have one person paying a claim versus
Mhm.
another person not paying a claim, right? um,
Mhm. Mhm.
boils down to, you know is there, and no two claims are alike, right? There's a lot of nuances
Mhm. Mhm.
into it, and the AI, the cover AI that we built, helps you kind of evaluate the questions that you're asking, the type of policy that you're looking at, the type of endorsements that exist with that policy. So it creates that answer based off of what's involved, versus just blankly going to an open source solution and saying, should I cover this or not? Which is going to give you a very broad answer, because it's looking at all different types of policies, and you're not being very specific to your particular situation, your particular organization, your particular
Yeah.
guideline, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Provide you a lot
Mhm.
of that reference. In addition to that, we're working on a lot of the conversational AI and how we can leverage that for making our adjusters work faster and smarter, embedding the technology within our ecosystem and our claim solutions to, where they are interacting and they are not they're being helped, right? They're being helped from a
Mhm.
trainer perspective and from a leadership perspective to give that guidance in real time.
Mhm.
Okay. So, if
Mhm.
I understand it correctly, the policies and rules are different for different states out there, and and also the governing bodies are different in different states who actually kind of lays the policies. So, does that reduces the complexities at your end when you are integrating AI, the first product which you talked about?
Yeah, look, legislation and challenges in different geographies pose a lot of different risks and challenges for us, right? And especially when you're thinking about a global aspect, not necessarily just a national and then within different states, I think it poses a lot of risk. But at the same time, it presents a lot of opportunity for us to leverage the technology to be individualized, right? And if you look at historical view of how technology was used, is you develop something and then you
Mm-hmm.
copy and paste it into a new environment, and then it's working the same way as
Mhm.
the old one did, and then you modify it, it becomes a challenge. Now
Mhm.
with the agility that exists, you can individualize it without having to put so much strain on your infrastructure and design when you're building it. So I
Mhm.
think that is a huge opportunity that exists out there to combat that challenge of individualizing from a regional perspective, from a geographical footprint.
Mhm.
Yeah, fine. So that helps in a way.
Yeah, 100%. I think it adds a lot of value to just development of the different solutions and technology that exists out there.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, so since you are kind of technically familiar also with the tech part of the insurance domain, and you have been interacting with the professionals from the non-tech side like insurance, finance, and operations. So, what is the your reading like? How do they feel about AI being introduced? Are they skeptical? Are they happy that their work will be kind of easier, or what are the observations here?
Yeah, it's surprising. It's evolving so fast, and it's because of our personal adoption, right? If you had asked me this question 5, 10 years ago, I would have given you a different answer to now, because I think what my prediction was essentially that we are going to become so used to this thing, just like anything else, right? People don't like a specific type of a keyboard. When this first keyboard probably came out, people didn't like it, right? And you
Yeah.
become so used to it now, nobody complains about where the keys are placed on the keyboard. People just adapt to it and you evolve. And I think that's the stage where we're at with AI. I'm noticing a lot of
Mm-hmm.
generations coming on board and saying, yes, we need this. I think the challenge is for folks to understand how to use all of it to help them, right? And I think part
Mm.
of the challenge is because there is not a roadmap of what to do, when to do it, and how the technology will help you do that. Right? I think it's at that stage where you have the younger generation as they're entering into the field, they're going, without AI, I don't even know if I want to work at the company. Like, why do I have to? They're questioning, right? They're questioning, why do I have to create a 30-page PowerPoint when I can give
Exactly.
my analysis
Exactly.
researching in a snapshot, right? And allow the AI to do
Correct.
all the heavy lifting. Why am I moving pieces? So from a creative standpoint, it's
Mm-hmm.
evolving. I think the generational piece is kind of understanding that we need it. And I think the older generation, of course, there's different levels, right? But at the same time, when you're looking at the
Mm-hmm.
baby boomers, even they're coming on board because they're seeing so much evolution in this development phase of the technology growth, the computing power, at the speed at which it provides the answers, and how accurate it is, and how individualized the responses are. They are like, wow, there's some potential to this. There is a notion of, I'll give it a try, but if it fails
Hmm.
me, then I'm going to be disappointed. But at the same time, I'm willing to give it a try. However, like when you think about a employment situation, look, it's everyone's a little bit skeptical of how this will change the way people work, right? And where they work, how they
Mm-hmm.
work, and when they work. And I think that's a little bit of the missing piece for folks at the moment of figuring out where do they go and how can they leverage the technology to make their jobs easier. I don't think there's a single person out there that's working that says, hey, I don't want to make my job easier, right? I think people want
Hmm.
to make their job easier. They're just scared that if the job becomes so easy, they're now going to become obsolete and taken over by this technology. And I think the folks that are going to thrive,
Mm-hmm.
folks that understand, how can you upskill, how can you cross skill, how can you
Mm-hmm.
work with the technology versus against it.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
you raise a very important point. Like people are afraid, and even there are few companies which are kind of creating that kind of fear just to get their products out. And but with that, what are your thinking about, like what all roles do you see? Like every industry has certain
Mhm.
roles which will be absolute in the near future, and
Yeah.
we can see that. So what do you see, like for the insurance guy, so just to for them to know what are the roles which you see that they are dying and they should kind of start learning new things or trying to adapt new AI techs and everything.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily specific roles in my eyes. It's the
Hmm.
mundane tasks, right? The things that nobody likes to do, but somebody does it, and people
Mm-hmm.
have to do it, right? Nobody likes sitting there and writing notes about a call that they had, right? Nobody likes trying to chase voicemails when they're trying to reach someone. No one enjoys
Mm-hmm.
writing a long letter, word by word, and copying and pasting the names and the email addresses and the addresses and so on and so forth. Um, I think all of those things that are very manual, that you wish somebody just technology was there to understand how what
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to do. And I think that's what's going to change. What's going to change is every single job in the industry, in our planet, is going to evolve. And I think it's going to be the stuff that is very routine, the stuff that is very consistent, the stuff that needs to be evolved based off of um, different skill sets, is going to evolve and is going to become that human enabled technology where your work can coincide with that. You're going to build your own experience around it. So if you think about, human resources, or if you think about claims and any underwriting where you're trying to reach out for renewals, you're trying to get some more information to make your decision, there's a lot of disconnect with the way we communicate, right? I read this book recently. It's called The Fourth Age, and I love that book. And it talks
Mm-hmm.
about how AI is evolving. We learn to communicate, we learn to trade. We had technology evolution.
Mhm.
Now we're in this next evolution of AI, and it's explaining that how we need to make sure we leverage that technology to be able to do the things that we don't want to, or that we don't enjoy doing. And I think those are the first
Mm.
things that are going to evolve. And eventually you'll learn from your knowledge base and build upon that to saying, how can we replicate that? So, instead of where one person is handling 100 claims and they have a lot of pain handling those claims, that one person can now
Mhm.
oversee maybe 1,000 claims with less headache, right? With
Mhm.
less stress. And they have a concentrated of a fewer claims where they can handhold and guide the journey through a little bit better.
Hmm. So, yeah, I just have a quick question from you, since we had a lot of discussion about advancements of AI and what industries might suffer and what industries should adopt AI in what certain ways. I need to ask you that, do you believe there should be a certain borderline of the evolution of AI in a way that it does not harm the basic intelligence of humans? So let's say, hypothetically, there comes a future where AI has advanced in a way that we humans are not able to, not able to correct our basic sentences. So, do you believe there should be a basic borderline of the advancement of AI? And with that, I want you to tell us how and till what extent should humans learn with the existence of AI?
Yeah, no, very interesting and unique question. I personally don't believe there should be a borderline. I don't think we should create our
Okay.
own parameters of where we say, hey, stop this, right? We can have,
Mm-hmm.
we can prevent that interaction for that particular instance when we're engaging with it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we don't want the AI to make the decision of claim handling. Does not mean we stop the
Mm-hmm.
development of the AI, if that's what you're asking. I think it's more around making sure that there are a lot of things we don't know, right? I mean, think about the number of people that are around the world, right? About 6, 7 billion people. And every individual has a unique idea, thought, process. And with the technology, we're able to implement all of that and combine and come up with a creative solution versus one person or one department or one organization with having a view. So the art of the possibility is endless, right? Every single day it's occurring to us that we are changing, that we are becoming different, that we have different ideas, and that AI is that tool that is changing so fast and it's impressing us, and the things that we didn't know were possible are possible, right? Is I look at
Mm-hmm.
movies with AI, right? I was probably very skeptical initially and saying, how can this be possible? And as I start to see like the quality and the clarity of the movies or the videos or the trailers that are coming out, I'm like, I would like to see an AI generated movie end to end, right? Seeing what can it do. Now it's in its infancy stage, right? I think even though we're so far along, AI is in its infancy stage because it's been there since 1950s. That's when AI was really started. And it's the computing power that is allowing us the ability to then accelerate and to be able to do the things that we've been wanting to do for such a long time, and is going to continue to
Mm-hmm.
evolve. So if we're looking at 2050, we will be looking back and saying, wow, we can't believe we didn't do these things back then. But the power of computing is not there, right? To where we want it to be completely mindless stuff where it should know more about us than we tell it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And like, what I believe is that we as humans should not just sit back and relax with the advancements of AI. I strongly believe that we should keep learning, we should keep enhancing our skills, so that we should be at a level in a way that we can handle the power of the advanced AI that we are going to see in the future. We should be capable enough, let's say, like, at the intellectual level, we should be capable enough to handle such powerful AI in the future. That's what I believe.
100%. I'm behind you on that one. I think we we should not stop the learning, right? I think we're the ones that created AI. We're the ones that came up with this solution, and I think we can't be the ones to now run away from it. I think it's how we evolve with it, and how do we evolve it.
Correct. So, like, I want to know how everyday people can use AI to make better insurance decisions or when seeking legal advices. How
Hmm.
can they use AI in that?
Look, it's a tricky question, right? Because everyone can now become an expert at everything and know nothing. Uh, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
very scary thing. But at the same time, it is having accessibility to information. It's no different than you being able to go to a library, you being able to pull up a book, you being able to research what you're researching. You have to ask it the
Mm-hmm.
right questions, right? You have to ask the right questions and be intrigued, and be curious about the solution itself. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
just allow it to tell you what to do, which I think most people expect to do. If
Expect to, yeah.
right, I think it's no different now. You have the library in a matter of few seconds versus where you would have to read hundreds and dozens of books to understand what you can intellectually comprehend in a moment of a paragraph, right? It's about making sure you're asking the right questions, and you are being curious and truly
Mm-hmm.
knowing the root cause and the root problem versus just looking for an answer and moving on. And I think a lot of the general consensus is I just want to know the answer and I move on, which is great, and it will give you the answer. But the more you dig deeper, the more you provide the details, the better your answer is going to be. So, you can spend a lot of time with AI, trying to engage with it, trying to
Mm-hmm.
interact with it, trying to understand what's going on about a simple topic. At the same time, you could get that answer in a one sentence, but the one sentence is
Mm-hmm.
only going to give you that one sentence, and it's out of context, right? You have to understand the context of why that answer is being presented to you. How does that impact you, and is it individualized
Mm-hmm.
or not? So, as I think people are asking legal advice and asking other things, I can't comment on that. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it is for people to have access to information, but it also will disappoint people when they approach a problem with the solution of what they found out, because it's not
Mm-hmm.
individualized to them, right? Think about a policy that's 100 pages long, and
Mm-hmm.
you're engaging with it and you're telling it, hey, give me this answer, I'm trying to figure out how to get my claim covered, or how can I maximize, and it'll give you the answer. However, your individual situation of where did the loss occur, when did the loss occur, what type of damage did you have, what were the other situations that went into your property or your auto and things like that. I think it's that whole
Mm-hmm.
context of things to really give you an answer. But I think from an information standpoint, it is definitely accelerating our learning, but we just have to be cautious that we don't take the answer and run, that we're truly curious about making ourselves more knowledgeable about the topic versus allowing it to give us the answer.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, if someone is in a high stress situation, let's assume that there is some urgency and they urgently need their insurance claims, right? And they are not very well versed with the process, and the situation is very tense. They are not able to understand what to do, where to go, and their agent or or whatever source of the insurance claiming process, that part goes silent. So I want to know, how can AI be a lifeline in moments like these? Can AI help those people in such situations?
Look, the AI can definitely, once again, like enable the person to understand what's happening, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it boils down to what I mentioned earlier: is you have to contextualize the situation of what's happening, right, and why it's happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? If there's no response, or if they're not getting the answer, a lot of times people don't like the answer they're getting, so you
Mm-hmm.
can try to manipulate the technology to give you the answers that you're asking for. For example,
That you want, yeah.
I'm engaging with the AI software, and I'm being very, using sentiment analysis and saying, I'm really upset that my insurance company is not covering this claim, and I'm crying, and I'm doing this. I'm very depressed. And when you give those types of answers, the AI is going to calm you down, and it's going to say, yeah, you shouldn't, you should be relaxed, and so on and so forth, and try to maybe give you the answer. I'm saying maybe, depends on the model, right? Depends on what's trained on, because there are models that are saying if the customer is very upset, give them the answer, and to give them a credit or give them a refund or approve the claim or whatever it may be. And if those are the situations, then you can manipulate the system, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to manipulate the system to give you the answer. I look at it as a friend, right? You have a friend who gives you an answer that you want to hear, versus a friend who gives you an answer that is the right answer but you don't want to hear, right? And every time in human interaction, you learn that you want friends who give you the answers you don't want to hear. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's us being open to that mindset that we may not like the answer, but we just have to make ourselves aware of why the answer is being given to us, and what is the reason, how can this be changed, and what are the things that are in your control to be able to change that.
Mm-hmm. So the whole conversation comes to a conclusion that you have all the best algorithms possible in the world in your hands. They are going to give you n number of options, n number of solutions. It's you who has to choose the right one, right?
100%.
You should have that much of intelligence, and you should have that much of conscious to choose what is right and what is wrong. Hmm.
100%. And if you're building those solutions, you have to take all of that into factor and into effect, right? There are a
Hmm.
lot of there are
Hmm.
a lot of things that we need to consider and think about from a governance standpoint as we're building out technologies, as we're building out solutions, that we just don't build out a solution or leverage the tool to build a solution because it's fast, convenient, and it's efficient. But is it ethical?
Hmm.
Is it doing the right thing? And can it be manipulated? Can it be uh, can it be misinterpreted? So I think all those factors.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And all right. So just to ease things out, just to ease such tense situations, I want your I want to know your point of view. Okay. You have a master's in insurance management from Boston University, right? And you have so many degrees, well reputed degrees, along with AI expertise, right?
Mhm.
Who, according to you, will success more in today's market? A person A who has formal degrees, or person B who has an average qualification but is really good at AI?
Mm.
Who is going to survive in the current market situation, according to you?
Yeah, look, I think it's a very tricky question, right? Because when I am answering this, people will hear the answer they want to hear, and people have already made mind the answers, right? I think the simple answer is, look, develop AI solution skills and don't need no degrees, and I disagree with that. I think you hear these success stories of folks that, hey, he dropped out of high school or he dropped out of college, and look, now he's multi-billionaire and he's made a lot of money, and you can become a YouTuber and make so much money. You can use AI to do YouTube and do all these things and make a lot of money. I don't disagree with that, but what you don't know
Hmm.
is all of the failures of folks that
Hmm.
didn't make it, right? How often do you hear about
Hmm.
somebody, except for in your own circle, of saying, this person dropped out of college or dropped out of high school, and they now are struggling to make ends meet, right? And they're trying to figure out
Mhm.
how to do life, and they're just driving an Uber or they're doing some gig work that's barely making ends meet, right? So I think
Mhm.
a degree, a qualification of certain expertise or education in general can be debated whether it's beneficial or not. However, I believe that it gives you the discipline that you need. It gives you the commitment that you need to be able to say, I am going to start something and I'm going to finish something, and I am going to finish
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
success. And I think that's where the magic is, right? Whatever that means for folks, it could be education, it could be a project, it could be anything, but you cannot do things halfway and walk away, right? You cannot start a degree
Mhm.
and say, hey, I'll come back to this 20 years from now and finish it later, right? You're not going to get that, right?
Mhm.
There's certain discipline that comes with education. You have to build that momentum. And I will say that in
Mhm.
leadership situation, I will say this in just your personal growth, when you start to commit
Mhm.
to something, when you become disciplined with it, when you become passionate about it, it starts
Mhm.
to evolve you as a person. So a
Correct.
master's degree doesn't make me smarter than someone who doesn't have a master's degree, right? And a master's degree doesn't make me more disciplined than someone else. However, it helps curate that, it helps evolve that into building your character, into giving you view of how should you think, and it puts you out of your
Mhm.
comfort zone, right? Education puts you out of your comfort zone because you're not used to doing that. You're not used to going in and reading a book, right, where you can learn
Mhm.
from other people's mistakes. When you're doing a program, when you're learning about the use cases that you normally wouldn't be familiar with, because now you're building your own, right? And there could be a huge
Mhm.
about institutions and educational institutions and how they limit your capabilities and so on and so forth, which I don't disagree with. However, I when you weigh everything on the scale, for me it is that self discipline, it is that self accountability. When you go in and have a formal education, right, you can continue to sharpen your AI skills, you can have an average bag qualification and become an expert at AI, but it's
Mhm.
I think overall in the longer term of things, if you cannot become an AI expert or strong AI skills without educating yourself. So it's self-contradicting, right? How can you build AI skills without having education? And whether it's formal or informal,
Uh-huh.
education is education. It's about making yourself aware of what's happening in the world.
Mhm. So the next time you think of dropping out of your college, just with the influence of fancy AI tools, just listen to this conversation before doing that, like, and think at least twice.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm a big supporter of making sure for young individuals that don't just look at the shiny object and run, right? It's easy. if you're
Ah.
if you look at folks that were in 2000 and they were going to the dot-com boom, look at it now. Like, there's a struggle if you did not upkeep. You're learning HTML, or you're learning now different languages. From a development standpoint, it's going to continue to evolve. So it may seem like AI is very key right now, but 5 years down the road, what always think about this: if you can do it so easily, so can the other billion people,
Other.
right? And
Exactly.
Hmm.
how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you demonstrate what you bring to the table versus anyone else, right? I will say it again: don't look at the success stories, but rather look at the failures, because those people who are successful, they went through a lot of failures before becoming successful, and nobody wants to talk about that, because we as humans, our brain is triggered to only look for the positive things, right? We're generally not triggered to look for the negativity, but we should reposition ourselves to saying, is it really worth it? And how does that impact your life? And what are the struggles you're going to go through? And trust me, if education is not on the table, education never devalues someone, if that makes sense. You're never going to get
Correct.
a education and come back and say, oh man, that was such a bad decision, I should not have done that. You can do all the other things that you're wanting to do alongside with education, and it should accelerate your path.
Yes, exactly. Education is important, and just going by those advertisements or ads, uh, taking short decisions will really land people into a wrong place.
No shortcut
Fine.
in
So,
life.
yeah, definitely. So, I was going through your LinkedIn profile. I could see you have a tagline of human driven, technology focused. That's the tagline.
Mhm.
So, when we see uh, someone who is advocating AI, there people are skeptical because they are kind of worried about their jobs and all. So when you say human driven and technology focused, so can you break down for us what does that exactly mean?
Yeah. So when I say human driven, without us, technology is nothing. We engage with it, right? We engage
Mm-hmm.
with it from a
Correct.
consumer standpoint. We engage with it from the operational standpoint, on from business side of things, and it has to be accepted and adopted on both ends for it to be successful. So you're going to need a human in the loop, regardless of the fact. And if people that understand that are going to be successful, people that understand that, you know, technology alone is is not going to work by itself. I give the example of, once again, AI and technology are tools. They're tools in our tool belt. We can have a hammer. I give this example very frequently, right? You can have a hammer in your tool belt, but if you never take it out, you can never nail a hammer, right? Or if you have a hammer in your tool
Correct.
belt and you have a screw that you need to push down, that's going to fail. You're going to break the screw, right? It's about using that technology the right way and engaging with that technology. And when you think about technology focus, when what I mean there is, you have to consistently evaluate how can you improve the work that you're doing. It's that kaizen
Mm-hmm.
mindset of continuous improvement, right? How can you evaluate my operations folks? It's about evaluating the value that you bring to the table and how you can improve the process and make yourself better, make the technology better, make the customer experience better, is what's going to change and evolve. And people that are going to be successful at that are folks that are thinking not from a scared viewpoint, but more so of an opportunity standpoint. I say that every catastrophe is an opportunity, and right now
Yeah.
AI seems like this catastrophe that's hovering over us and is going to take over our jobs, and it's a Skynet, and we're all going to be doomed. But I think it's about making sure we utilize our intellect, intuition, and knowledge to build this, and to make sure that it's for the people that are like us that will interact with it. I always give example of also Iron Man, right? For those of you that watch Iron Man, it's about Tony Stark engaging with the technology, right? It's
Yeah.
doing things for Tony while he is giving direction, right? There, think about every single employee having a direct report of 100 people without having
Mm-hmm.
any direct reports. You can tell it to do certain things for you while you are doing other things, and it brings those things to you without you having to without thinking what are the mundane things that you have to do to get it. So simple things that get me this report, or simple things as, can you take a look at this code that I've written? Is it proper, or is the decision that I made on this claim, is it appropriate? Can you evaluate it? All of those things come together, and it's about the human interaction with the technology.
It's a really nice message to give to the public here, like human driven and technology focus. So it's not only applies to you, I suppose it is for your followers or whoever is looking at your profiles. So, really nice.
Correct. Indeed.
So now let's talk about the insure tech domain. So you have been observing that domain from so long. So and according to you, what is the one biggest or major shift which AI will bring? In simple terms, if you want to talk about it, what would be the one major shift that AI will bring to the insurtech domain?
It goes back to the basics: communication and transaction, right? Trade, communication. Those are two key elements of where AI is going to disrupt every industry. These are the
Mm-hmm.
basic human skills that we learned and evolved through as we evolved as a human race. And I think we
Hmm.
continue to leverage that to become more efficient and better. So I would give you a simple answer to that. Those two elements. Once we leverage the technology to make the communication better and
Mm-hmm.
easier to understand and more efficient, we're going to go places.
Hmm.
So simplifying the communication or making it more efficient for everyone across the industry.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're all going to have our own digital print of the things that we like and we dislike, and the technology will speak to all the other technologies and say this person doesn't like this, or hey,
Mm-hmm.
when picking out a restaurant, don't pick these things. So I think it's all those basic things that will evolve. Right now it's been commercialized. That's why, advertisement world is so big, because the advertising world is now able to manipulate your thinking in what you believe, right? If you want to go to the gym,
Hmm.
they will present to you all the gyms that are advertising on the platform, and they will try to
Exactly.
influence you to
Correct.
go to those. I think it will become where we will become owners of our own identity versus being commercialized.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
So as you
That.
touch based on the other side of it, we have been talking about the positive sides of the AI. So the other side is where we have hallucination or the training bias of the LLMs and AI fairness. All these issues are there. So how these issues are being tackled right now in the insurtech domain? Are there any talks or discussions on these topics?
100%. I think that's just a very hot topic, and that's what's preventing a lot of this fast adoption, right? Because of this notion that there could be some bad faith when you're talking about the types of claims and the engagements that you're having in the insurance space, just in general, because
Mm-hmm.
there's that
Hmm.
fear of too much transparency, right? And too much information available to not enough information available. So it's a very fine line balancing act of making sure that the biases, because look, if an organization has been making a decision for such a long time, and that decision has
Hmm.
been not exposed, and now you find out that every single time they do that, which is against the policy itself, it does pose a huge
Hmm.
risk, right? And some of the bad actors out there can manipulate that, right? And they can manipulate the narrative to really work against that and disrupt the industry. And I think what a lot of folks don't realize, I just recently wrote a paper on the cost of litigation on claims and insurance industry. It's massive. I think there are bad actors out there that are um, manipulating the
Mm-hmm.
the sentiment or the genuineness of insurance. And what's that doing is
Hmm.
increasing the cost to everyone else of insurance, because now you need stronger, more robust view and defense for these cases, which is increasing the cost of insurance in general. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what people are not realizing. That's what people are not realizing, and how it impacts them at an individual level when there is a success of celebrating somebody else's misery, if that makes sense.
Hmm. So, like, as we had this conversation, a question came to my mind which I would like to ask you. What more further innovations can be brought ahead in the insurtech industry with the help of AI and technology? What more advancements are you expecting ahead in the near future?
I think it's the solution of what to do next, or I think it's looking at the forward thinking of how can the
Hmm.
technology help me make better decisions. And I think those decisions are going to be the deciding factor of where the industry is headed, where where we can
Mm-hmm.
make a huge shift into the industry as we think about, you know, I should not I should know what's coming ahead before it comes here, right? It's going back to the prediction of future, right? And there are certain things that we can
Mm-hmm.
leverage the data to be able to predict on what's going to happen and how it's going to happen, whether you protect against it when you're finding out that this policyholder is trending towards getting upset, or they're trending towards getting a lawyer, they're trending towards leaving your organization and going shopping somewhere else for insurance, and so on and so forth. So I think it's those indicators of human behavior in the process of an insurance life cycle, whether it's claims, underwriting, and other areas, is that behavior and that persona is going to impact. And if that could be understood, if that could be evaluated, and if that could be actioned on to prevent, I think it's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
huge shift in the industry.
Mm-hmm. But tell me, how much people or the customers are open to accept these kind of innovations in in the insurance industry? Because uh, what I believe is that people are very particular about their insurance processes or the claiming processes, and they do not, as you said, they do not want any fancy or shiny objects in the path. So what do you think, how easy it would be to convince people to accept or trust these innovations?
Are you speaking about the customer or the organizations?
Yeah, the customer end.
Yeah, so I think the customers are becoming more and more prone to accepting it, right? I don't want to wait 2 hours on a phone line anymore, right? It's
Hmm.
about having the
Mm,
option of saying,
mm,
"I just tell the AI and you get back to me when you do," right? I just want to know a simple thing. Let me just talk to someone. Maybe he can answer it.
mm,
We have this
mm,
IVRs set up in the call centers of, what to answer. Press one to go here and do this, and this is how it routes, and
mm,
very rule based. But I just want to know certain things. Tell me, and I'll move on, and or get back to me, um, and get back to me in a more fluid way. Where just send me a text
mm,
message, right? I think it goes back down to that simple communication of, I am looking for a certain answer to my question. I
mm,
just need that answer.
mm,
And I think a lot of companies get
mm,
hung up on their internal process instead of thinking outside with a lens of, what is the customer looking for, and that can we provide that in out of the box solution, instead of just, you need to wait to speak to an adjuster, you need to wait to do something else. And sometimes it is okay to do that, but being transparent
mm,
around that, right? I mean, now you have a lot of these solutions in the call center. I always go back to call because it all boils down to that from a customer lens, right? It's, I have to call somebody to
mm, mm,
and I have to talk to somebody to figure out what's happening. I'm getting a letter, but I
mm,
don't really understand it. I have questions about that letter, or I'm getting communication. So all of that can be solved, instead of saying, we'll call you back and maybe I'm not available at that time, right? It's that art of
mm, mm,
communication and figuring out,
Hmm.
can you reduce the frustration? Because there's a lot of phone tag that happens in a lot of different industries, right? Where you're looking for an answer, you reach out and then they call you back and you're not available, and so on and so forth. Can we eliminate that? Can we make it so fluid
mm,
it's at the terms of that customer, instead of being the other way around?
mm, mm, mm,
So I had an experience recently, always on this. Like we are integrating, let's say, a chatbot or uh, for the end customers or the policyholders to interact. So recently, like we also face certain issues with the internet, and we were trying to interact. So I'm switching the domain, but it relates to the insurance tech also. So when we rely on these chatbots or text, so there was some issue, like the hallucination issue, and the chatbot was taking me towards the wrong number where I had to connect. And that is where I was stuck.
Yeah.
So there was no way forward, because there is no other communication. All of the other communications are shut, because now on the forefront we have the chatbot who is interacting with the customers. So, what kind of measures can be taken to avoid these type of situations? Because if we completely rely on these type of chatbots or conversational bots, so we may land up into such situations.
Yeah, human driven, technology focused, right? And I think that's the solution. A lot of people don't think about is how can you allow
Mhm.
the
Uh-huh.
customer the opportunity to toggle between the two, right? Because then you free up space. There could be a lot of people that don't want to speak to someone, and they can get that answer, and they don't go through that hallucination process. But when you get to that level, you
Mhm.
allow your customers to have that enablement to toggle back and saying, okay, I would like to speak to someone, and then giving them the option of like, look, have someone reach out to me, and this is what it is, or take a look at my question, and maybe somebody doesn't even need to speak with me. They could just get back to what I'm asking, and it's beyond just the technology. And the technology should be smart enough to know, hey, I am hallucinating, right? It's self-awareness of the technology to being built into the models, right? I'm not a technology
Mhm.
guy, so I don't know, but I'm thinking like a human brain, right? Technology has a brain, and you can train it to saying, hey, this is getting out of hand, and the person has asked multiple times the same question, or is getting frustrated. That sentiment piece of it, as you embed more and more of that, you can try to come up with creative solutions. And I think the technology itself can get to that level to where it understands, hey, now I need to pass it on, right? Where we're not having to train it, but it learns on its own.
That is actually the necessity where you are including AI. You in at least in the current situation, there should be a human force or human brain sitting behind that in order to handle all the exceptions that AI might not be able to cover.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I think
Yeah.
we're early on in stage.
So,
As it develops,
yeah.
it'll change. Yeah.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So, since you are the perfect person to ask this, I want you to tell us what do you think, who will be the leading players in the AI infrastructure and application for the insurtech industry. So let's say if in future insurtech industry wants to adapt AI into their workflows as we discussed, so whom you think will be the leading players, uh, uh, which insurtech industry will trust on?
Yeah, I think it's a very tough question. The answer is maybe it doesn't exist today. uh, and the reason why I say that, or maybe it does, and it boils down to the niche focus, right? There's a lot of folks trying to
Uh,
do a lot of different use cases. Like, right, you talk to tech companies, and the big players, you know who they are. You go to them, and they go,
mm,
yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we can use that use case and build
mm,
something. Okay, yeah, we can do that. But you got to have the organization that is going to be successful and that's going to win, is going to be that will narrow down and focus on individual industries, and then
mm,
collaborating its knowledge from other industries, but not trying to manipulate one product to fit all solutions, right? And I think
mm,
that's where that's
mm,
where the key would be, because right now the possibility is so big that people are going all over the place, right? People are, they're think about the simplicity. The biggest, I think, success for an organization is going to be someone who's going to keep this entire solution a simple solution. Why is Google so
mm,
successful? There are dime a dozen, search engines, but Google was successful because it understood the problem of the customer and kept it very simple. And there's
Yeah.
nothing
mm,
on there, right? Meanwhile, you go into Yahoo and you got all these flashing screens everywhere, and it was good and powerful until Google came out and said, "Hey, we simplified," right? ChatGPT is
mm,
a lot of massive work and continuing to evolve their technology and listening to the customer. And I think
mm,
those are the organizations that are going to impact, that are changing faster with the demand of the customer versus the other way around. You can't nowadays,
mm,
you can't build a product and allow for them to come. You have to
mm,
develop the product some shape, way, or form, deploy it out there, and just keep on evolving. Listen to your customers and evolve the solution so fast that people, people that have the questions, other people have more questions. And if one person is asking it, 100 people are asking it, right? I And can you deliver that solution fast enough to where the people that are not on the platform can get that answered when they jump on the solution, right? When new adopters or early adopters are coming in, can they find it to be empowering and going, wow, this has already solved the questions I would have asked it, right? And I think, and there's always going to be that continuous evolvement of the product. So I think that's who's going to succeed, is whoever can evolve their product the fastest. Look at Amazon, how many times they
Mhm.
refresh and build the persona of the individual, so that way when you go in, you only see the things that impact you, as although it's a massive organization with millions and millions of products. But when I walk in, it's that big store makes it feel like it's my store. And I think that's what's going to
Yeah.
make a difference.
Mhm. So a player who makes the solutions simple, who ships faster, and I suppose who hallucinates less and is more biased, can be a perfect player for the InsureTech company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
You
If you
can add
find that
All right.
magical
personalization.
one, let me know.
Yeah. Sure. 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 All right. All right. Yeah, you were saying something.
No, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. 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 So I think this should be the end of our podcast. I am not willing to end this conversation because it was going so well and I was learning so many things from you. But we can't do anything. Uh, Time goes, and thank you so much for being on our show. Thank you so much for adding so many value points to our library, to our knowledge bases, connecting insurance and AI, explaining things so well. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being on the show, and I hope we'll see you soon in some other episodes, or maybe some other integrations in the future with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on here. This was very enjoyable.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much. Thank you
Anas.
so
It was
much.
wonderful talking to you.